also thanks very much for your interest in today's topic and launch event, which is about the new European Competence Framework for Youth Information Work and Workers. So welcome to the event to all of you from my part as well. My name is Imre. I work for ERICA, the European Youth Information and Counseling Agency, and I will facilitate today's event with my colleague Safi.
Yes, hi everyone, my name is Safi. As Imre said, we will be facilitating, and I work for Eurodesk, so the other part of this collaboration.
So now we all know you a little bit, where you are from, in what capacity you are attending this event, and what is your relation to competence frameworks. So now it's our turn to tell you what we are going to talk about today at this event. So first of all, we will launch and present to you the new European Youth Information Worker Competence Framework, which we call UsingInfoComp, but we will also give you some context and explanations to it. So we will explore a little bit the current context of youth information work in Europe. We will do so to give you some background why and how we started the development of this competency framework. We'll also detail a bit what competencies are included in this framework and how they are grouped and structured, and some good practice examples will tell you and show you how they actually work in practice. And we will close the event with an interesting policy debate where we will discuss a bit the future approach to youth information work in light of the competencies that these professionals are having, and how they can contribute to the support of young people. So this is what you can expect in the next 90 minutes or 80 minutes which are left. And without further ado, I will invite our first speaker, Reina, the director of ERICA, to tell you a bit about the current context of youth information and why and how we started the development of this competency framework.
Good morning, everyone. Everyone can hear me, I guess. Yes. Okay, I'm trying to pass the slides. So yeah, my name is Reina. I'm the director of ERICA, and I am very happy to see that there is so much interest in this competence framework after so much work we have been dedicating to it from the side of Eurodesk and ERICA. Yeah, it's really a pleasure to see 17 people now connected, willing to hear about the work we did and how you can use this framework. So I will just tell you a little bit about the context of how we started with this framework. First, we had, as a context, we had a survey, more like a mapping exercise that had included a survey in the framework of the partnership between the Council of Europe and ERICA in the field of youth information. This was a survey that we conducted because we were basically developing a quality label for youth information in cooperation with the Council of Europe, and because we needed to know more as well about, you know, how youth information was organized and delivered across Europe. We had this survey conducted in 22 countries, and there were 33 structures that replied. And one of the main things that we realized is that it's very residual, actually. There are not many countries that actually have youth information worker as a profession recognized formally. In most cases, it's part of the definition of youth worker, but there is, yeah, but it's a very particular type of youth work. But yeah, so you can see that in this survey, we realized that there was very little recognition across different countries of the profession. So we found that this was a problem also because on the other hand, sorry, youth information is considered to be in most countries part of the national youth strategy or the regional youth strategy. So this lack of recognition was at the same time, confronted with high expectations as well on the profession, because it's part of the strategy of most countries. So we found that there was a strong need indeed for support and to set also youth information recognition as a priority. And we had this discussion with Eurodesk, which was also realizing that there was this mismatch in a way. So yeah, there was an opportunity indeed to provide common grid to build understanding, to increase quality, and as I said, to ensure wider recognition. Something important to say is that this survey was conducted in the course of 2019 and early 2020, when was then published. So it didn't take into account indeed the COVID impact on youth information, which in a way Eurodesk solved as well with a survey that they conducted well, it was published in 2021, but it was based on the situation in 2020 that I think I don't have to tell you about what was the context. And some of the main things that were discovered through this survey is that there was a strong financial impact on youth information services across Europe, that there was a big challenge linked to digitalization because there was a huge digital jump, but there was lack of resources in a way to adapt to digital environments, and it was the only way indeed to reach out to young people. It was difficult to ensure, as I said, outreach for young people, especially for young people with disadvantaged backgrounds during the lockdowns. And there were also high expectations in terms of development of competences, provision of training, exchanging good practices, and having some sort of guidelines to ensure that the use of digital tools was as efficient as possible. This survey was conducted in 18 countries, and there were 90 responses collected. So it also added to this need gap that we had identified in the past, and in a way it got a bit worse with the pandemic. In parallel, in a way, to all this, we had already started a process. Sorry, my slides jump a bit. I click on the bottom, but they are a bit delayed, and sometimes I pass two instead of one. Yeah, I was saying that we had a parallel process in a way that we started in June 2019 until November 2020 with a cooperation with the ESCO database. I don't know if you are aware of what ESCO is, but it's basically a sort of dictionary that describes, identifies, and classifies professional occupation skills and qualifications that are relevant to the labor market in the European Union, and also to education and training. And we realize that, well, it's a very vast database indeed. It has like almost 3,000 descriptions of occupations and more than 13,000 skills linked as well to these occupations and translated into 27 languages. And we realized in a way that there were some mismatches indeed in the definitions, because, for instance, there was no definition of youth information worker. And in the definition of youth worker, sometimes in certain languages, we saw that there was the definition of youth information worker. And in other languages, the definition was completely different. So Eurodesk approached us and said, yeah, why don't we do something about this? And maybe since we have to start with the occupation of youth worker, maybe we should collaborate as well with other stakeholders, like the partnership between the EU and the Council of Europe in the field of youth, and also SALTO training. So we started a process of seeing how we could indeed find a definition of youth worker, and at the same time finding a definition of youth information worker as under the umbrella of youth worker. So we started as well to run a survey among our networks where we collected more than 100 answers from 25 countries. And we ended up with a definition of what a youth information worker is. I'm sorry for the delay with the slide, but it doesn't seem to be. And this is the definition we ended up with. Youth information workers deliver youth information services to young people in a variety of settings, environments, in order to support their well-being. They ensure that information services are accessible, resourced, and welcoming for young people, and run online and face-to-face outreach activities aimed at both individuals and groups. Youth information workers aim to enable young people to make their own informed choices and become autonomous and active citizens. So we had a definition, but then did we want to stop there? Did we want to just, leave it in a definition? We said that with all the information we have collected and with basically all the needs that we have been identifying through different surveys and consultations with our networks, that we had to go beyond that. And this was the start of the process of building this competence framework. We found that there was a need for it. We had started already a process. We had collected a lot of information, and we just have to maybe, take it a step further. And I will then stop here because then Audrey Frith, the director of Eurodesk, will tell you more about the process indeed.
Yeah, thank you, Eva, for this great introduction. I'm also super happy to be with you and to launch finally this competence framework with you. I see some familiar faces, but also new faces. So welcome from my side as well. And as Eva said, I'm the director of Eurodesk. So I guess I also have this delay in the slides. Okay, thanks, Safi. So yeah, I will explain a bit the process. So as Eva said, we started with all this data that we collected and having this definition that we shared between the networks and our partners. And we wanted to go deeper in defining a competence framework, because this, there is one for the youth worker, but it was not something for the youth information worker. So it was a one-year process, as you can see in this timeline. So the first thing we did is to build and create a European working group with experts and practitioners from very different countries that belong to the two networks, to have this expertise on board. And this group met 3 times during the year. And what we did is that we started collecting realities and experiences from the different countries, because in some they had existing frameworks, so we compared what was inside, but also we saw, like in countries where there was not such a framework, to see a bit what were the needs and why, how such a framework could be used. And that's where we started. And then we drafted the first UsingInfoComp, so the competence framework. And we shared this draft for a wide consultation among our respective networks to see if it corresponded to the view or perspective and needs of the youth information workers themselves. And here we are with the launch in September and having this session now. And of course, this is not the end of the process, because we hope now the framework will have a life on its own in the different countries. For the next slide. See? Yeah, thanks. So this work wouldn't be possible without our experts. So as I mentioned, this working group that was very active, it was really a challenge to have everything done in 1 year. So really a big thank you to the working group. As you can see, we have members from 9 different countries. As I said, very diverse backgrounds or realities at the national level in terms of legislations and practices. And also very rich diversity in the different persons who joined us, with people really active on the ground. Others were involved in the development of frameworks or badges, etc. So we really benefited a lot from your expertise. So really a big thank you from the team to you. And you will have the chance to hear some of those experts in this webinar. So big thank you. I would like to thank as well, like we had an expert joining us, an external expert also who helped develop the framework. And this was really useful as well to have external expertise to help us. And of course, the editorial team, so Audrey, Imre and Safi. So it was intense, let's say, year for all of us. So here you can see, I mean, you also like this publication, the UsingInfoComp Framework. We really want to stress that this is a reference framework, but of course it is not meant to be prescriptive. I mean, it's really meant to be adapted and used in a flexible way in the different countries, because we know like the realities are very different from one country to the other. But we hope it will still be useful and inspiring for all of you. As you can see in the middle, the competence framework is organized around 3 key areas, which is supporting and engaging young people, quality services, and communication and outreach. And around it, you have the 12 individual competences that are attached to those 3 key areas. And for each description, as you can see on the right side, you have the descriptor, and then we organize it in knowledge. So I know, skills, I can, and attitudes, I feel. But so we follow this logic, but we also wanted to make it very easy to understand. So it's always with the I can do this, or I can do that if I have this competence, to make it very relatable to your to the everyday life, let's say, of a youth information worker. And of course, the learning outcomes that are described again are not exhaustive. So of course, you can have also national differences. And we see there are very different ways of using this framework in terms of competence development, but also in terms of recognition, especially in countries where you don't have such a framework. So we really hope that it will be used in the development of the quality of the youth information services at national level, and in the recognition of the service, let's say, of the service, let's say, for the community, for young people, but for the community as well. And the competence framework is available on the website. You also have videos, fact sheets, etc. So we really encourage you to help us in the promotion and use it. And we are also eager to learn how this UsingInfoComp will be used at national level. So how it will be a source of inspiration and development. So it's just a start. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Audrey. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and look a little bit at the competence framework. So we prepared a lovely video to show a bit what it looks like and what it includes.
Well, so yeah, that was a quick intro to the tool itself, which we are now happy to introduce you more in detail. I think we'll have the slides back that will show you the first competence area of this framework, which I'm going to now introduce you very briefly, and then I pass the floor on to a colleague of ours who is more competent in the field and can present their good practice. So the first area in the competency framework is about the core of youth information and counseling work, supporting and engaging young people. So what is this? There are three areas, of course. So what is this first one? Here we talk about the skills and the knowledge that are needed for youth information workers to provide that targeted and personalized information to the young people for which youth information work is known for. There are also competencies here that help the youth information workers to support and engage the young people on a needs-based fashion. And here are also the competencies that provide the skills to develop knowledge, involve and interact with young people who are our ultimate beneficiaries. Each of the three main areas have four learning outcomes, as you can see on the slide here. In this first area, supporting and engaging young people, the four learning outcomes are building knowledge, identifying needs, managing information, and generating options. In the framework, for each of these, you find a number of knowledge items, skills items, and attitude items listed. The first one, knowledge, is formulated under I understand. The second one, skills, are formulated under I can, and the third one, attitudes, are labeled under I feel. So these are the individual competency items that can be found and are described in this framework. And so altogether, they make up this area supporting and engaging young people. So how does it look like in practice? I invite Sara Spiteri from Agenția Zaza in Malta, who was a member of the working group, to tell us about their good practice examples, how they realize this competence in their everyday work. So Sara, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Imre, and greetings to everyone who's following. So yes, as you mentioned, I'm going to talk about briefly about one particular service which we have adopted and is in full swing actually, which is called Youth Worker Online. I cannot move the slides. Safi, maybe you can give me control. All right, I have it. Thank you very much. Before I talk about the service, I just wanted to introduce you to the agency. Yes, I'm happy to say that the agency this year is celebrating its 10th anniversary, and we are active members of ERICA, Eurodesk, and ECA, so whatever we do is also promoted on a European level. Agenția Zaza operates 4 regional services, so we have 4 establishments where young people can interact, and we provide numerous empowerment programs, and above all, we operate a youth information center, which means as well that Agenția Zaza has adopted and practices the European Youth Information Charter as well. And I'm happy to say as well that our services have been recognized, and this year we have been awarded the Quality Label Award for excelling in our services. And a couple of weeks ago, we also introduced, we launched a virtual tour so that we can make a youth information virtual tour so that we can make information more accessible for young people. So how did we come about introducing Youth Worker online? This service was introduced following a mental health campaign which we launched during the pandemic. And the mental health campaign was not only visible online, but it was visible in places where young people at, such as, for example, bus stations, and we were on the telly as well. Apart from that, we disseminated over 9,000 information packs to young people, and also disseminated this information, the info packs, to youth organizations as well. The campaign was followed by numerous young people. The campaign, which was called Trust Yourself to Talk, Anxiety Is This You? When the campaign was terminated, young people were still reaching out to us for this service. And in order to develop this service, we engaged in conversation with the young people so that we can provide them with the assistance they required. This was mainly done either by one-to-one conversations with young people who made use of the service, and even with the young people we've met. And their suggestions, which were providing information and training sessions to youth organizations regarding anxiety, that is how to deal with panic attacks, who to refer to, and what to do there and at that point in time. Another suggestion was to have an online service where young people can freely speak with no fear at all about what they're going through and not being judged, and receive proper and adequate support. These considerations were explored, and I'm happy to say that following the development of this service, we managed to provide training to over 20 youth organizations, and we have managed to reach 210 young people between April and October. So yes, the Youth Worker Online was launched, and it is highly sought after by the young people deriving from different backgrounds and having different ages as well. We adapted the process according to the young people's need, and what was very, very effective is that even though the service is launched and is functioning, we constantly ask the young people who make use of this service if there is anything else that they would want and they expect from us. The service is very easy to use. We launched an online application which can be accessed through our main website and even on the Youth Information website. And the application is very easy to fill in as well. And once they fill in the application, the young person will indicate when they are available to have a meeting with one of our youth workers, a meeting which is on one-to-one basis, a safe space for the young people to talk about anything they want, and a service as well that will allow you to be followed, as in to be given the assistance you require. Why has the service been very, very effective? Because we have been constantly promoting it on social media platforms and even within youth organizations and educational institutions and different entities. The main important thing is not just to establish a relationship, but to maintain the relationship and reassure the young people that this service is available and that we are constant in what we do. And yes, as I've mentioned earlier, the Youth Worker Online works this way. They book an appointment online on youthinformation.gov.mt. They fill in an application, which is very, very simple to do, because we have to keep in mind that we cannot ask for a lot of information before actually meeting the young person. Apart from that, we give the space to the young person actually tell us what they want. We do not interfere more than we should. So yes, the young person fills in the application, they indicate the time and date which is convenient for them other than us. Once the application is submitted, a professional youth worker will communicate with the applicant to confirm the appointment, and then the young person can start making use of the service. They can have more than one session, and the young person will receive the support they need until they want to. So there is no obligation or no expectations from our end, so that the young person can freely make use of the service as they wish and when they want. Obviously, the youth worker is bound to confidentiality, and we have to keep in mind that we are youth information workers, so we cannot replace psychologists, psychiatrists, and other supporters within this field. So what we do is we refer the young person to reliable and adequate services. So we're here if you need a hand, more than happy to help you out and discuss the service further. You can contact us either through our website or even through our email. Thank you, Imre.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah. It was really nice to see the practice and how you also managed to transform this very traditional space, which usually happens face-to-face, into an online environment where young people can access it at any time. It's very interesting to see. So thank you for sharing. We're going to go on with the next competency area. And we're going to explore a new practice as well. Let me share a presentation with you. All right. So we're going on to the next competency area, which is quality services. And this area looks at 4 specific competences, just as the previous one. The first one is focusing on enshrining ethos and values in everything that we do. So making sure that we deliver quality youth information services and uphold the right of young people to have access to reliable information and information that's easy to understand. The next competence is enhancing learning and development. So making sure that as professionals, we continue to learn both in our personal and professional development, but also as teams and organizations to improve our services even more. Then we have support inclusion. So make sure that we demonstrate cultural awareness and expressions, that we take into account the inclusion and accessibility dimensions, so the things that we do, and that we don't discriminate on any basis. And the last one is respecting the privacy. So really respecting young people's right to privacy, to confidentiality and anonymity as they reach out to us and use our services. And for this, we will fly off to Finland with Mika Pietilä, who will share a bit of what they're doing at the city of Oulu. Welcome, Mika.
Thank you. And I will share also a presentation. I hope that you can see, the page. Just as now, it should be full screen. Yes, thanks for inviting, and thanks for the possibility to present competence map for youth information and counseling work, which we have been already working, I would say 5-6 years. And as Safi said, so I come from Finland. I'm working in city of Oulu. That's our administrative home base, but we are more well known by name Koordinaatti, which is name of our team, and we have been working since 2006 as a center of expertise in youth work and specialized in youth information, counseling and guidance for young people. We work with youth workers. That's the framework where the youth information is delivered in Finland, and mostly we talk about youth workers when we talk about youth information and the professionals, but we have also titles as youth information worker, youth advisor, and information advisor, etc. And let's see why now, and this is just a slide to remind myself about the framework that you are talking now when you are talking about the YouthInfoComp. But
we can only see the first page, so I don't know
okay.
if
Let's see.
So we're not seeing the full screen. We're just seeing the program basically with a presentation in it.
Okay, thanks for. Let's take once more. And can you see now a full screen?
No, I think it's perhaps two separate windows. So we still only see the program. The first page.
Okay.
Otherwise, perhaps you can present it that way as well.
If I present it like this way, so you can see the slides.
Yeah,
I think,
very nice.
yes, let's go further and to the actual topic. Yes, so as I said, so we developed in a competence map for youth information and counseling work in collaboration with Finnish actors of our network. And we had a situation where we needed to more clearly identify what youth information and counseling is. We also needed a tool to evaluate the work of the youth workers who are dealing and who are implementing the youth information work. And we also wanted to have a tool how to measure the competencies and to be more clear how to help to develop the competencies required by the work. It was a long process, and in the end, I think we are happy with the result. We were testing it during the development work, and also we have evaluated our result. The competence map which we are using and how we see that that the quality is depending a lot on the competencies which the service has, and this was one important starting point also, that we keep all the time the quality aspect to this work. So as I said, so it's a tool to evaluate employees competencies, but also the organization skills and competencies. You can use this model as a self-assessment tool, but you can also define competence target profiles in work units. For example, in different youth information services, we have 2 to 3, even more professionals working, and with this model, it is easier to define what kind of competencies the whole team has and what should be developed. And as said also, so this model can be used to map and describe the skills and competencies needed. It's not necessary always a situation that we have all competencies that we need, and with help of this tool we have been able to define the needs and to, for example, to train people then to reach new and be stronger in different competencies in their work. There are, as in this YouthInfoComp, so there are descriptions. We have described competencies, and they are all work form related. But in addition to these work-related competencies, we have also competencies which are in knowledge that are related to the general working life skills. These came to the competence map during the development process. So it was a strong message from the youth work and from the youth information services that participated the project that these kind of skills and competencies should be also described in this competence map. This is a slide which is summarizing how you can use or for what you can use this tool. So when you receive these materials, you can familiarize with these a bit more. But we have divided in our competence map, we divided the competence areas in 10 different competencies. And then you can see also that there are kind of sub competencies. So we have some competence areas we have divided, for example, in 5 different sections. We have also included a 10th area here, which is kind of expertise areas or expertise competencies which are related strongly to youth information and counseling work. So and this 10th area is also kind of area that the youth information services can also describe themselves new expertise areas if they can see or define that kind of in their work. Beside these competence areas, in the end of the presentation, you have more clear definitions of these areas, but we have also described, we call these competence levels. So each competence has 5 different levels, competence levels, and this makes the assessment easier and also more consistent. There is level 0, which is which means that the employee does not have the competence yet. But one very important aspect in this competence map is that you assess your competencies, you set an aim, and then you start to develop your competencies. For example, during the next year, 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. And this is a tool which we encourage services to use frequently as a tool in their work. The level 4, that's a level which describes excellence in that competence area, and but it also means that you might have a bit wider tasks or responsibilities in that work and in the service where you are working. That and it's also the it's not always necessary to reach the level 4. Level 1, that's a basic competence, and then levels 2 and 3, those are between these 4 and 1. But these are most of the when we have been discussing about these assessments, so most of the assessments end to a result that people and professionals mark that they have reached the level 2 or 3. So this is briefly the model. If you want to hear and discuss more about it, so that's of course possible when you contact us in Koordinaatti. You can contact me, either me or my colleagues. Actually, my colleague Pirjo Kovalainen is my colleague who, or our colleague who were doing mostly this, or she was the responsible for the development work, but as well Jaana Ferotov, who will be speaking soon. So she knows the competence map very well, as it's the product of Koordinaatti, and she's the head of our unit. So you can also in occasions when you meet or discuss with her, so you can of course ask more about this model from her. But this has been actually a very good tool, and we are very happy that there is also kind of competence model now on European level, and we are looking forward that we start to hear more reflections from the European or colleagues from different organizations in Europe, and that it would be possible to compare experiences between these different competence models. Thank you.
Thank you, Mika, very much for this excellent presentation of how a competence framework can be put into practice. That was very useful for all of us. And now we are off to the third and last competence area of this framework, which is outreach and communication. I think this is a very straightforward area. It doesn't require a lot of explanation what these are and why these are important in youth work, in youth information work, in any service, basically. So the 4 competencies listed here are building relationships. This is relationships with the young people, communicating efficiently. Well, our service is personalized. Youth information services are tailor-made for the young person. This is our competitive advantage as well. So it's extremely important that the communication aspect on these is also professional, and it's well done. Then cooperation and networking. Now here we do not talk about the young people anymore, but about other services, youth services, and relevant stakeholders. And last but not least, we have the outreach, where the professional skills make it possible or ensure that youth information services actually reach as many young people as possible. So this is the third and last competency area, and here to tell us about good practice will be Susan Scott from Crosscare Youth Info Services in Ireland, who was also a member of this working group developing the framework. So Susan, we are looking forward to hearing about your good practice.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay, yeah?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, thanks very much, everybody. I just wanted to tell you a little bit. I suppose I put this, there's a couple of slides, we'll go through them in a minute, but they're really more just a memory aid for myself, just to maybe remind me of certain topics that we've kind of created and delivered during the year. So I work for Crosscare Youth Information Service. We're quite a small team of 4 people. And I would like to acknowledge as well the strength of working in a team where some of my colleagues would have the IT competencies and the technical skills, and that would be like their speciality and their forte. So sometimes I would be more relied upon perhaps for content or for proofing. So I would say that one of the ways to stretch small services is to play to the strengths of the different team members, and not everybody usually can do everything well. So for me, outreach tends to be a community aspect. So Safi, if you wouldn't mind just popping on to the next slide, I'll explain. So again, similarly to one of the last speakers, this is really a reflection, I suppose, of the last 20 months. Normally speaking, for me, outreach would, as you have said, Imre, mean delivering, services out of centre in the community to where young people are at, but also not just to young people, to other services who work with young people and, parents, school personnel, that kind of thing. So it would normally, in a year where we are more freely able to move around and safety is not such a priority, health and safety, I would be up in schools, I would be at open days, I would have a stand, I would do training, that kind of stuff, similar, I'm sure, to what my colleagues in the rest of Europe do. But just during these last 20 months, we found ourselves a little bit more restricted, and we still are on a slightly more reduced outreach schedule. So what you're looking at just there in front of you is an example of, you can see there, it says Clondalkin Community Response Network. So this was basically where I would normally work on quite a few committees in the community, particularly ones that have an access remit, encouraging young people to make the transitions from school to college to work to employment. So I work on a few community committees where we develop programs together. So this Clondalkin Community Response Network was a collective of services in our area who actually decided that we would continue to come together weekly. Every Wednesday we met for an hour or so. We developed initiatives, we delivered on tasks. So the one that you're looking at there is just a small, I suppose, a more informal approach. So what we were doing was the money was applied for this under a mental health remit, and something like, you could imagine, stay in touch, keep communicating. So we advertised among ourselves in the parish a competition where schools and young people could actually just develop some cards that they could send to relatives and friends and stuff. So we gave them some general themes like, I will miss you, or I will always care, that kind of thing. And then they just gave us the images. So my role in this was to help with to meet my colleagues and say, okay, I'll take on the task of, accepting the card entries. And then we got some entries from the community, and then we chose the winning ones. And then I had to collect the prizes, deliver the prizes. So it was very localized kind of a response. So that's what I feel youth information can also do. It can offer some task-based supports to other services. And like, without me receiving the cards in, the project probably wouldn't have been finished because nobody else had the time to do it. So the underlying theme, as I said, was a mental health kind of response, keeping in touch, communicating, something friendly that people could send to their relatives and friends. And then on the back there in the text, it actually says that this is a free initiative. People can take the cards, the 12 cards, for free. But if they would like to make a donation, they could do that to our local food bank, which looks after about 100 families, and among them 80 children. So there was a direct connection with the young people making the cards for other young children in the area. So it's just a visual idea of trying to keep in touch. Thank you, Safi, if you wouldn't mind again popping on there for me. Thank you. A second initiative that we developed, and I may have the dates wrong, I think it actually was initially piloted around 2019 before the pandemic kicked in, but it sort of took off more thoroughly from 2020 onwards. So it's a little bit of text there. That's because I was writing it to explain it to somebody else. So basically, what I was trying to say there was youth information provision in Ireland, in terms of youth information officers or youth information workers, is quite a small unit of people for a countrywide level. So what we did was we partnered up with Spun Out, the online youth information provider, and they launched the initiative and piloted it. And so basically what it is an interagency approach, ideally, I suppose, to raise the profile and to improve the reach of youth information services. So it's an interagency collaboration or a partnership as such. So the partnership is really the youth information officers or workers from the key youth work agencies who provide youth information in Ireland. And just to mention as well, many of our colleagues might be on part-time hours, and they might have their time divided between youth information work and youth work within groups. So that might mean they're stretched a little bit more. So anyway, this service is basically where us, the youth information officers or workers, provide live chat provision in shifts. So we agreed to take a number of shifts during the week from 4 to 8 p.m. in the evening. And two colleagues will be on together, and then the live chats will come in from young people, young adults, parents, or perhaps even youth workers asking an inquiry on a person's behalf. So we're there for the time allocated. The query comes in, we answer it in the live chat fashion, and similar to the colleague who said that they would always refer, we're not a counsellor, psychological services, but we will know what services are applicable. So we will always then have our chat, and where we see the query is moving into something more in depth, we will refer the young people to the appropriate agency or crisis service or whatever they're looking for. So that happens between 4 and 8. But while we're actually on the chat, we will also answer, we call them tickets, but they're basically queries that came in out of service hours, and they come in a kind of an email format. So we treat them exactly like we would any other query, answering the query and referring the people onward. There is a 24-hour crisis service available in and around this service. So if a young person can't get us and needs to talk, and the query is a little bit more in depth than youth information can provide for, that is available through the spun out service. And I suppose the outcome then as well is it's a successful and valuable service to the general public, as well as other general young people and other underrepresented groups. So we would often get queries from young people from a migrant background, or there'd be certain queries that are very sensitive, and we feel that we're there to actually direct the young people to the appropriate services. Thank you, Safi, please, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah. Is there anything else I want to say about the live chat? Yeah, so the live chat service, just before, you can stay with that slide, it's fine. But the live chat service can only operate really through the cooperation of my own colleagues in Crosscare, our colleagues in Youth Work Ireland, YMCA, and any others that I might have missed. It's purely collaborative. 4 people in one service can't provide that, but a nationwide response really kind of improves the reach for young people. One of the other things that the live chat can do is, if a query is very in-depth or complex, we can ask the person, would you like to speak to somebody, in person or in centre? And if they're close to a youth information service or centre, and they say, yes, I would, we can contact our colleagues in different counties around the country and say, I have a query for you. I think the person would really benefit. And they will say, that's no problem. Give me a few details and send me on their information. But we always do that with the person's consent. We will ask them, would you like to speak to somebody? Do you think it would be helpful? And if they say yes, with their permission, we move their contact details to our colleagues in a physical kind of setting. This other resource here that you're looking at is the Time to Move campaign, which you're all probably very familiar with. And again, this is a highly collaborative initiative on an annual basis. And for us, our cooperation partners most definitely will be our Eurodesk coordinator and our Youth Information Network. Plus, there will be other kind of information services that we collaborate with. For example, Europe Direct, through the library services. So the resource that you're looking at there is actually, if you do look at the link when you get a chance, it's an interactive kind of resource. So it's static there as we look at it, but all of the headings, the items they move around, links click on, and the headings there's quite a detailed drop-down menu under each heading. But actually, interestingly, this Padlet came from maybe working on the committee on the competence framework. While we were doing that, we were looking at ways of adding content and feedback and commenting on the competency framework. So the Padlet kind of came as an idea partially through that kind of background. But this particular Time to Move one is where you're talking to young people about mobility opportunities in Ireland and abroad, and in Europe more so. So the couple of headings tend to be working, volunteering, studying, and traveling, and in particular promoting the ESC, formerly EVS program. So that this collaborative item, again, this is not me, this is working with partners in Voluntary Services International, who are one of the sending and hosting agencies for ESC. The girl Maria kindly said she put the Padlet constructed for us, but we would have to proofread it and add, suitable content. So in there, you will get resources from other youth information providers throughout the country, maybe something special on travel and whatever. So that gives you an idea. And I know that the headings extend maybe even further across. So I'll send you the contact or the link to the actual piece later. Thank you, Safi. Yes, so this last one is a sort of a more localized resource. So this would put our main theme really with collaboration is that we share resources as well. We actually make sure that our other colleagues throughout the country, if they find them remotely useful, that they can have them. Sometimes we will have an open kind of a system where people might put their own, they might put their own contact details on the resource. We're not very protective of there's no like sort of intellectual property and stuff like that. So this particular one here is about 4 or 5 interactive pages long. And it was this year, what we did was we were conscious that young people, Europe might be a little bit of a stretch, particularly with a bit of nervousness around the pandemic and travel. So we were actually promoting mobility, starting at home in your locality and looking at the sustainable and eco and climatic environmental kind of projects. And in this 4-page resource, then it gives people ideas. It shows them how to use their local resources like our canal, and it gives them then the piece about ESC in country for a change. So just an example of, and this was myself and my colleague in Crosscare, Charlene, she does the design and stuff. But having said that, then our colleagues in the youth information or in the youth service, we would have an outdoor learning team who do a lot with environmental kind of and climatic kind of issues, and they also would have contributed to the resource for us. And then on a wider scale, we would have shared this resource as part of Time to Move for any other colleagues that might want to find something useful from it. So they're just a couple of visual examples of that collaborative piece, which is really important when you're a small operation, when you're a small country, when youth information is not provided equally throughout the country. You look for every opportunity to network and share resources, and it's the only way I find to really get the reach out there and to acknowledge other people's expertise as well. Thank you, Safi.
Thank you, Susan, very much for your exciting presentation. And with this, now we have seen all the framework. So these were the 3 areas of the framework with examples included there. So I hope it is clear mostly what the framework is about. You are invited to download it, as Audrey showed the places where you can download the framework. And if you have questions, then please ask them in the very end of the event. We are running a little bit late, so we will go ahead with our panel, but in the end, you will have the chance to ask questions if there will be some. I would also like to highlight that this material is available for translation. We already know of 2 organizations who are going to translate it. The Comunidad de Madrid in Spain will do a Spanish translation, and Harno, the Education and Youth Authority in Estonia, is translating it to Estonian. So if you think that is the way to go for you as well, please contact either Eurodesk or Erika. That is an opportunity. And now, so we have seen the competence framework, and now the question is what it means for the sector. And we have a nice panel here that will give us some answers. We have with us Antje Rosemunds, the head of the youth department of the Council of Europe. We have Mr. Babis Papaioannou, the policy officer and the Director General Education and Culture of the European Commission and the Youth Unit. And we have with us the 2 presidents of Eurodesk and Erika, Ingrid Ajot-Kaitse, President of Eurodesk Network, and Jana Fedotov, the President of Erika, the European Youth Information and Counseling Agency. My first question goes to the 2 presidents, so presidents of Erika and Eurodesk. How do you see the importance of this publication that the 2 networks came up with, and how does this shape the future of youth information? Which of you would like to start? If you and if you can, I invite you to give 2-3 minutes answers to the questions over the panel. So Jana, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Imre, and hello to all of you. I'm really happy to be here, and I want to thank all of you who has been involved in this process and produce of this great tool for all of us and make youth information profile profession and youth information work more visible, known and structured. My opinion is that this publication is a great tool and it's a great result of the good cooperation and sharing knowledge, experience, opinions and thoughts. What is youth information work today? I see a great importance of this publication. First of all, it shows that there is a common interest and will to make youth information work more known, not only among those who are doing it, but also for a wider audience. So this publication is a good tool, as I already mentioned, to show what kind of youth work area youth information work is, and it also shows needed competencies, skills, knowledge, and much more. I'm really happy that this publication also sent out the message to all national youth work policymakers, stakeholders, and those who are in charge of ensuring the quality youth work services equally to all young people in different levels, that youth information is really profession among other youth work professions, and it should be recognized and supported in different ways. So this is not only the content, it's not only to show what youth information work is and what is youth information profession, but it's also, we can use it as a lobbying tool to send out to those who are working in a national, a regional, local level, and so what everything includes in our work daily and how it should be developed. So the Youth Information Workers Competence Framework is an evidence and tool to use in different ways, in different levels, and of course, and hopefully also in European level. But for me, its importance is that it gives us a picture how challenging youth information work is. And now is our duty to share this information and use this information, what we have in this publication. About the future of youth information and how to shape it so to reach all the needed competencies, there must be educational paths and training to keep competencies and skills updated in all levels and different kind of youth information services and overall in youth work. So it's not enough that we know which competencies are needed. We need basic and additional training in youth information. And this is not yet possible in all countries. And unfortunately, youth information, it's not included in youth work training curricula in every European country. So with this publication, we can hopefully support also the development of the youth work training and same time to develop youth information and counseling work together. So this is, I would like to encourage all of us to share this excellent publication widely in our national youth work structures, youth work educational institutions, ministries in charge of youth work, and discuss with them what is still needed, what could be the solution and plans to work together. So my opinion is that this publication has many meanings and roles, not only educate, what youth information work is, but it has also a role to support the development of youth information work in general. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for this sharing and dissemination that we mentioned, I would like to highlight that also coordinated translated the competence framework to Finnish. So thank you very much for that. So I invite now Ms. Jotkaite from the Eurodesk network to share her views on the same questions.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's nice to be the second answering the same questions, because like that you can make your comment shorter, because I believe that together with Jana we share really similar thoughts on our work. So the publication as such is never the most important thing. The core is youth information work and youth information worker who provides reliable information to help young people make decisions every day. And to support this work, our networks, together with youth information workers and also stakeholders from the youth sector, what was mentioned, developed this competence framework. And here the importance comes. First of all, we try to ensure recognition of the youth information worker profession and be the support in a sense, providing encouragement for all countries that are willing to give this recognition to the profession. Secondly, being a youth information worker was never easy, and it will never be easy. It's a sad but also exciting story of our work. Young people will be always changing. The topics they are interested in, the ways they use or consume the information. At the same time, for example, trends and solutions of technologies or the world in general are changing too. And the question of the competences of youth information worker, who must be a much better information provider than Google is another key point to think about. The framework supports this understanding and development of the competences required by youth information workers to support their work they do with young people in a really professional and quality manner. So for me, it's like really about being professional and doing your job in a quality way.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts as well. My next question is addressed to our institutional representatives in the panel. And seeing the time, I will ask two questions from you at the same time. You can answer them together. And the first one is, well, you are both representing European institutions, so you see the youth field, and you have a European overview of the youth field. What competencies do you believe will be in demand, and what role does youth information play, for example, in the COVID-19 recovery, making use of these competencies? And the second question is, whether competency frameworks such as European, this is UsingInfoComp, are these necessary and important from the point of view of your institutions? So I am asking who would like to start. Looking for the camera. So Ms. Rotemund, yeah, okay, yes, please, Antje, go ahead, thank you.
Hello, thank you, Imre. Can you hear me? Can you see me all good? Okay.
Yes,
fine.
It is all.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation, and hello from the Council of Europe headquarters in Strasbourg in France, from my office. It's good to listen to you, and it's good to be with you for the launch of what I think is an excellent publication and a big piece of work. So first of all, I would like to congratulate Eurodesk and Erika, the authors and the contributors for having done this work, because also it looks now very compact and easy to read and easy to understand. everybody who has ever worked on something like that knows how much thinking, how much reflection, and how much discussion goes into that. Well, Imre, I mean, there are actually 3 questions, and I tried to be short because I think it's no point in repeating what has been said already or listing competencies. I had the occasion to listen to 3 of the presentations earlier on. I couldn't spend a whole day with you, unfortunately, because we have the World Forum for Democracy here at the moment, which is called "Can Democracy Save the Environment?" And one of the things that has been mentioned very often was saying we are at a crossroad in history. And I actually think every day we are at a crossroad, and everything that we do counts or doesn't count. And it is important that we move every day in wherever our place in this society is. And I think you have been doing a really important move, which is important for an institution like the Council of Europe for many reasons. And it is also a very important contribution to what we call the European Youth Work Agenda. Because youth information work is, of course, a very important part of youth work, but it's also a very important part of youth policy. And you know, in the Council of Europe, we do both. I mean, we do work with our line ministry in charge of youth affairs. We consult them and we advise them in developing youth policies and youth strategies. And we are also very active in developing standards for youth work in Europe, and also the development of a competency framework for youth work in general is part of this European Youth Work Agenda, which the 2 big European institutions that work in this field pursue together. And I'm sure that my colleague Babis will also talk about that a little bit later. So for us, what you have been doing is a very important step in direction of a European competency framework also for youth workers. Because if you go on this ESCO website and you look for youth work, you know that you have, I don't know, several dozens of profiles coming up there. And we have been making researches on what is the situation of youth work in Europe, and we know that the situation in countries differs greatly. So also, and I also listened to the Finnish colleague who is lucky to have an own competency framework to present, which existed already on national level. We know that this is rather the exception and not the rule. So standards developed on European level that are not, let's say, nationally biased, but can be adapted in different national and also cultural contexts, are extremely important for us as reference models also for youth policy. And as you know, youth policy in the Council of Europe has several different content areas, but youth information is one among them, which is extremely important, beside also others like youth participation, access to rights, social inclusion, etc. So that's, I hope, the answer to the first question. When it comes to the COVID-19 recovery, look, I mean, this is, I think this is something that will be with us for a long, long time, because this recovery is not something that will be over when the virus has been banned. We know this all very well. Young people have been very hard hit and disproportionately hit by this pandemic, and we are not even yet in the position to understand all the effects that this pandemic had on young people. We know some already, but we also know from the way we had to work now in this last 2 years, that the digital means have their clear limits, but they also have a lot of opportunities. And Ingrida said that you have to permanently adapt. I mean, I think this is true for all areas of youth work. You always have to adapt to new developments. But what I think is important to mention is that the digitalization, of course, transforms youth information work even more than other areas of youth work, because you have now means at your hands which didn't exist before, but you also have much more competition in informing young people. And that is something also which is, of course, very important to see, that young people have access to the information that helps them rather than information that pulls them into the dark net or into the rabbit hole of the internet. We know that this is a big danger as well. So when it comes to COVID-19, I think youth information has a very important role also to help to define measures that have to be taken in this recovery. And that will be not a one shot work, but this will be, in our opinion, a continuous work that will stay with our field of youth work for at least 1 decade, if not even longer. And certainly this will define also what other youth work areas are going to do. And I think the third question on whether the competency framework can be relevant in the context of national Europe, the competency network is necessary and important from the perspective of the institutions. I think I have answered that to an extent already. Yes, it's very important. I think what you did there is also a kind of example of good practice, also how we could approach other areas of youth work. And what I find extremely important in this entire debate on supporting youth work and making youth work more visible, more strong, also more resilient to political developments as a field of social practice, which is very important, but it is extremely small beside other fields of practice. I think with this competency framework, you also contributed to create identity, which is a very important issue for strengthening youth work, and give good examples for others to follow. So I stop here. I know we are short in time, but sorry, you asked me 3 questions. I had to take a couple of minutes to answer them.
And I do thank you for answering them all and for the interesting and engaging thoughts as always. Thank you very much. And last but not least, I invite our 4th panelist, Mr. Babis Papaioannou, to answer these same questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, first of all, for the invitation. I'm really happy being here and following the discussion from the morning. I'm also happy because practically this is my background. I'm working as a youth information officer for more than 20 years in the Youth Information Center of Thessaloniki, back in home. But now I'm in Brussels and I'm changing heads, let's say, and I will present you some things about what the European Commission is doing, and try to connect also with your questions. First of all, I must say that thank you very much. Thank you very much for the work. I mean, the YouthInfoComp, it's a really interesting work forward for what we are doing. And as Andrzej says, our basic tool is the European Youth Work Agenda. And the edition helped us a lot. The discussion helped us a lot of the discussion of today. And I must say that youth information services is a crucial topic that we need to have in our in our mind for the next design, and especially for the period of what we call the recovery. Because we saw from the previous period, from the period of the pandemic, that taking the decision as the European Commission to keep the programs open, and I'm talking basically about Erasmus+, and moving the most of the activities in the digital format, except of youth workers, trained youth workers, and except of all these digital platforms. There was a need, and we mentioned that there is a need of new information services for young people in order to attract them and in order to present them what is youth work, what is youth policy, what is youth involvement in local level, youth participation, on all the priorities that we have in the European Union Youth Strategy until the year 2027. So yes, I can say again that it's a totally important document, and it will help us a lot. And I'm trying to connect all this with what will come, and to say that together the European Commission, together with the Council of Europe, we took the decision to start some of the topics, of the priorities of the European Youth Work Agenda. Then we are happy that 23 and 24 of November we will have the first meeting of the subgroup on youth work, Eurodesk Apply, and it will be present on this meeting. So why this is important also for what you are doing? It is important because we're going to explore the new topics and the presence of youth work, having as a target at the spring-summer period of 2022 to present the model for the new digital tools for youth workers, for training, networking, information based on the European Youth Work Agenda. So I have the feeling that the YouthInfoComp will help us a lot, because it's a practical tool for how to develop youth information services in Europe, and it will be part of our agenda, of course. The second thing, which is also important, and I believe that it's easy to say it as a draft now, but together with the Council of Europe and the EU Council of Europe Youth Partnership, we will come back to you with details in the next period. We took the decision to start a more concrete dialogue on the topic of youth work recognition. So there is a need to start working with more closely with the youth information services community, and to start describing how we're going to involve your work and in the process of the recognition, and in the bond process that is moving and running around. And I have the feeling again that the YouthInfoComp and today's edition will be an interesting starting point for discussion in between the European institutions and the Youth Information Services community. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Avis, for this. And I want to take the opportunity as well to thank all of the speakers for sharing your best practices, but also the panelists for coming in and letting us know what this publication means for you, how you see this publication taking the youth information sector another step forward. We know we're running a little bit behind time, and we want to thank you as well for staying with us until the end, and for listening in and being active as well in the chat. You can always access this publication on the ERICA website as well as the Eurodesk website. And as mentioned, if you want to translate it, we very much welcome that, because we want to make sure that this publication is also accessible in all the different languages that our youth information workers work in. So I already got some requests through the chat. You just send us an email and we'll be happy to help you with the translations of these documents. All right, Imre, do we have any last thing to mention before the end?
Well, we might mention that we did not have the chance to offer you the questions and answers possibility. So if there is something you think was left out, feel free to contact either Eurodesk or Erika and ask it. And I would like to join the thank yous that Safi already said. Thank you for all the speakers and for all the participants staying with us until the end.
All right. Stay good and keep informing youth and keep doing the great work that we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you and bye-bye.